Hi guys, I'm Adasa, a 19-year-old girl documenting her life just because why not? And I am not only documenting my life, I do think a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. That's why today I wanted to answer a simple question. Is Hollywood open to non-white people? Anyway, I'm trying something new today because I really enjoy writing and watching essays, and so I hope that you'll enjoy what I'm attempting to do today, because that's literally the plan for today's video, answering that question. Is Hollywood open to non-white people?
I think what we have here in Hollywood is high art.
Hollywood, the biggest movie industry worldwide. For more than 100 years, it has ruled the rules of the world and the trend regarding beauty, dressing, makeup, and to a certain level, even music throughout the movie industry worldwide and in our everyday lives. While it is true that it did not always dominate in every single country, its market power and box office returns are unquestionable. Hollywood remains the wealthiest cinema industry. According to the article World's Richest Film Industries 2025, Bollywood, Hollywood, Tollywood, and more, it generates over $65 billion annually. Adding to that the fact that 8 out of 10 of the movies from the top 10 box office 2025 were Hollywood productions. Yet, its success doesn't mean that it is not criticized, and it is especially criticized for its lack of diversity, and not only racial diversity, even though we're focusing on it today. There are a lot of white actors in the industry, such as Angelina Jolie, Margot Robbie, Timothée Chalamet, Robert Pattinson, Ryan Gosling, and even more. But I can name a bunch of non-white actors as well, such as Michael B. Jordan, Harrison Jr., Ken Jeong, Sarah Ramirez, Morgan Freeman, Zendaya, Yerin A, and Simon Ashley. There seems to be more and more representation, which we witnessed with the live action of The Little Mermaid, seeing a lot of black kids enjoying to see for once in their life someone looking like them on the big screen. And the list goes on with movies such as Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Coco's, Moana, and even more. But are we truly beholding the rise of racial diversity in the American cinema industry? We cannot tackle the issue of ethnic inclusivity in Hollywood without addressing the elephant in the room: Wuthering Heights. The choice of having Jacob Elordi as the male lead in the movie was highly criticized because there is a lot of assumption about Heathcliff's ethnicity out there. It is not written in the novel that Heathcliff is supposed to be black, but there is also a lot of passages that let us understand that he is not white either. But Mr. Heathcliff forms a singular contrast to his abode and style of living. He is a dark-skinned gypsy in aspect, in dress and manners, a gentleman. Something stirred in the porch, and moving nearer, it distinguished a tall man dressed in dark clothes, with dark face and hair. You're fit for a prince in disguise. Who knows, but your father was Emperor of China and your mother an Indian queen. Moreover, we cannot ignore the countless controversies that arise every time a black actor is cast for a movie, with people complaining about historical accuracy and realism when it's for a movie on how to train a dragon. Not forgetting that, according to UCLA, in 2025, people of color lost ground in all key employment categories in Hollywood, such as directors, writer, and cast. Plus, the proportion of non-white actors declined from 51% to 36% between 2024 and today. If we're taking all of this into account, can we consider that Hollywood offers the same amount of chance to shine to white and non-white actors? it is undeniable that early Hollywood beauty standards were based on white supremacy. In his book Romantic Love and Personal Beauty, which is a scientific examination of emotional experiences that explores the evolution and nuances of romantic love, therefore analyze its impact on personal beauty, cultural aspect, and on its historical variation. Henry T. Finck explains that beauty standards are the result of national singular experiences based on climate, customs, tradition, physics, and mentality. But guys, I do not truly recommend this book to you, and you'll understand why later. During the early Hollywood era, what was in vogue were high cheekbones. They were considered as one of the main signs of beauty. So theoretically, ethnicity shouldn't matter, especially considering the fact that at the time one of the main trends was Orientalism, which means that Hollywood was supposed to be a place to shine for non-white people as well. It wasn't the case though. Orientalism was an imperialist fantasy, which we can clearly identify when we see movies about Eastern Asia, Southern Asia, or Pacific from this period. There was a taste for Asia, but this distorted version of Western culture were made to please the Western eyes and the colonizer eyes. And it is something that we can clearly identify thanks to the romanticization of landscape and eroticism. As Slavoj Žižek explained, the other which is observed and eroticized is always seen as lower by the dominant culture, because it is the only way the observer can appreciate a form of primitivity. In his book, Henry Finck takes the example of high cheekbones and explains that non-white people can hardly be pretty with those features because they are just ugly on lower races. And I think that this statement gives you an idea of non-white people's place in the early 20th century medias. But at that time, this performance of ethnicity led to a sort of moral panic because it made mixing race worth considering, and that's why pale exoticism was widespread in Hollywood, because it was only acceptable to have a white woman playing the love interest for a white man. White actresses were often disguised to play Asian character, which is why we call a yellow face. Therefore, a lot of actresses known for their high cheekbones, such as Greta Garbo or Marlene Dietrich, were often orientalized in movies. And even when there was no romantic relationship involved, white actresses were often cast over Asian actresses to play Asian character. In the movie The Good Earth from 1937, Louise Rayner was cast over Anna May Wong to play Olan. So, what was non-white people place in the early 20th century movies? Did they even add one? Racist tendencies were truly noticeable in the early Hollywood movie era. There are multiple infamous examples of that, starting with Birth of a Nation from 1915, directed by D.W. Griffith. This movie does a lot of revisionism, and it is demonizing African American while valorizing the rise of the Ku Klux Klan. Another one is The Jazz Singer by Alan Crosland, in which Jackie Robinovich wants to play jazz, but his father doesn't want him to. Anyways, he performs in a blackface because it was the thing in minstrel show at the time. And look guys, it was one of the first talking movie, so people see it as a revolutionary movie, but it is like racist, like I'm like, ooh. Can we not glaze that, please? And look, the 30s Hollywood movies just reinforce this vision of blackness. So we can conclude this part by saying that there was little to no non-white characters, and that they were maintained in highly stereotypical or ridiculous roles. Fast forward, late 20th century, early 2000s. Decades have passed with multiple emancipation movements from racialized people all around the globe and in the US as well. So, what's new with movies? There are multiple movies with non-white people as protagonists, such as Malcolm X, Better Luck Tomorrow, The Kid Runner, Blood In, Blood Out, and more. The world is healing. Finally, some good representation. Cinema is one of the most important ways of sharing that we have as human beings. It allows people to connect and understand each other's way of life, even with an entire ocean separating them. And that's one of the reasons why representation matters. A bad representation can reinforce and maintain stereotypes and prejudices that we have about a community throughout popular culture. When the movie Aladdin, sorry guys, I know it's Aladdin in English, but I feel that it's ugly, so I'm gonna say Aladdin. I'm so sorry. Anyway, when it first came out in 1992, the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee was outraged by it. The reason is the following one. In the original version, so the English one, the only characters talking with an American accent are the main characters, and it gives a negative message. As Don Bustani, head of the group at the time, said, the lesson is that anyone with a foreign accent is bad. And look guys, I found a lot of things about like early 90s movies with that type of problem, so yeah. In her book Outlaw Culture, Bell Hooks explained that the movie The Bodyguard is pretending to cross boundaries regarding race and social class when in reality they are rejecting the primordial place that is given to race in the supremacy society, because race, rhythm, and like kind of condition our relation to one another. As she explained in the book, you have to understand that before this movie, the public had never seen a movie with a famous white actor falling in love with a black woman. Yet during its promotion, they insisted on the fact that race was not an important topic of the movie, which Kevin Costner reaffirmed in an interview for Ebony. Bell Hooks explains that white supremacy allows those with privileges to overcome the idea of race and to act as if it was not important at all and as if it had no impact in our society. But we all know that the reality is that it contributes to implement and preserve racial hierarchy. And you know guys, the fact that Kevin Costner said himself that the movie had nothing to do with race sound thoughtless when you analyze the end of the movie. Spoiler alert, he dies at the end. But you know, his death is nothing trivial. During slavery in the US, government white males favorable towards sending black people back to Africa accumulated petition warning about the danger of sexual intercourse between white respectable men and black women. Therefore, they asked the government to take away this temptation from them. Signatories wanted the state to control the sexual desire in case it would turn out to be untamable. In today's society, this subject is not a taboo anymore, but it becomes one when this relationship can lead to something serious. As Bell Hooks analyzed, this movie guarantees a sexy, torrid, lovely idyll between the two characters while constantly reminding us, thanks to I Will Always Love You, that this love is not possible. Yes, the chorus says, I will always love you, but the rest of the song says, bittersweet memories, that is all I'm taking with me. Or even, we both know I'm not what you need. And just like that, the public can understand something that we don't talk about in the movie. Races make the love impossible. And without even doing it in purpose, this movie is reaffirming the white supremacist idea that racial pollution is something that exists. But look guys, Aladdin, just like The Bodyguard, were movies produced by white directors and with mostly white crews, plus it was in the late 90s, so it is obvious that they have a lot of racial biases. The movie Malcolm X, though, is produced by a black director. Okay, the first time I watched this movie, I really loved it until I learned about Malcolm X's life. The movie highly highlights Malcolm X's life and entices his revolutionary fiber out of him. In the last years of his life, he became more and more communist and plus started thinking about his misogynistic biases. But the movie does not really talk about those days. Plus, at the end of his life, he's not even in Nation of Islam anymore and admits that being in this organization felt more like being the speak person and a puppet for Elijah Muhammad. So, we don't understand. Spike Lee is a black movie director. Why doesn't he develop these aspects of his life? That's a point that Bell Hooks covers as well. Malcolm X was supposed to downgrade white women, yet the movie was centered around Louise Little for an hour and 15 minutes, which positioned this relationship at the same level as the one he had with his wife. But she explained that one of the main problems as black people that we have is the following one. If the public buying ticket is mostly white and we want to reach the public, to which point do we have to compromise ourselves to do so? As Michelle Wallace explained, there is a gap between what black people would love to see about them in movies and what white people from Hollywood are disposed to produce. Instead of having static black character, we end up with minstrel shows. We're not in an era anymore in which you can make a blackface and being seen as one of the most revolutionary movies from your decade, and thank God. But we have to admit that non-white characters are often limited and disregarded. And that's how you end up with the total absence of Malcolm X's sister, Ella, throughout the whole movie when she is the one with her mother who led him to Islam. Imagine Spike Lee literally created another fictional character just not to put her in. Why? Because there is no archetypes in Hollywood that suit her roles. There is no black girl typical archetypes that suit her roles. And that's also how you end up with a seductive and temperamental Betty Shabazz, when in reality, her and Malcolm never truly had big argument. And I'm not the one saying that. She literally told that to Spike Lee. She told him that she was rarely getting into trouble with Malcolm. They were rarely getting into arguments because in Nation of Islam, what made a woman attractive and respectable was her obedience. But you know what, guys? I think that might also be the reason why you can make a movie about a Japanese woman life with no Japanese woman as lead actress. A cinematic equivalent of eating California rolls and calling it authentic Japanese cuisine. Okay, this one was just so funny. So I was like, I'm gonna want to put it in. That was fun. And I was like, you know what? You got a point for that. You actually got a point for that. As this review reminds us, Memoir of a Geisha is supposed to take place in Japan, but it is directed by a white person, written by 2 white people, produced by 3 white people, and starring 3 non-Japanese actresses as the leading roles. Today, you can easily fetishize a country without even putting actresses and actors from this country in the movie. You just have to make people think that it is the case. But I don't really see the evolution between this and what was happening in the 20th century, if I'm being totally honest. But you know what, guys? I'm pissed. I'm so pissed. We need new representation. You all know that if you're black, you're X color. If you don't know it, it's basically a theory saying that if you're supposed to be black in a show, you will be green or orange or any fantasy color like this. You see a character and you know that they are black because of the way they are drawn, because the actor that is impersonating them is black and they just end up being green in the movie, or just because they were black and they just end up being changed to something green in the movie. But you know that they are black, but they are never black. It's like the meme, it's like I can hear my people, but I can't see them, as if blackness was something that you should not represent. Another problem that we are still facing today is that non-white characters still have pretty cliche and ridiculous roles. Fania Noel, in the preface of the French version of Outlaw Cultures, takes the show Atlanta for example, especially the first season that has some episode taking place in Europe. She complains about the fact that the only non-American black woman to have a significant speaking time is the caricature of an activist instrumentalizing social justice to personal ends. And you know, guys, it reminded me of Sasha from Heartbreak Eye, because that was basically what she was, and that was really frustrating because sometimes she was based as fuck. Like, she was so based, she was so fucking based, and I was like, guys, she's kind of right, she's right. But the thing is that, like, her statements seemed so empty because she, like, just kept on trying to be a preachy person and all, and so, like, you were like, oh, everything she's saying is lame as fuck, let's not listen to her. And I was like, guys, you actually don't get the thing. And yes, it is not an Hollywood production, but I wanted to talk about it because it reminded me of that, and that's my video, so I do what I want to do. And guys, the thing is that it is so depressing because I feel like I have the exact same criticism for the early 20th century American movie industry and today's American movie industry. But there is a thing that I don't understand. Why does it seem like it's better if it isn't? It is undeniable that movies such as Sinners or Everything Everywhere All at Once, with like so much racial inclusion and like representation that, like, you know, you have like those goosebumps when you're seeing the movie for the first time, could have never existed in the 60s. Like, I know that, I'm not stupid. And like, a movie director like Bong Joon-ho would have never won an Oscar for a Korean movie with like no dubbing available. Today, more than ever, people of color are being represented in movies, and they can be actively part of this representation and the creation of this representation. Yet, in 2023, since the creation of the Oscar Academy, only 4 Asian actors had won an Oscar. Adding to that, the fact that in 98 years of existence, the Academy never gave the Oscar for the best film director to a black movie director. So, it is better, but not really. In the book The New Spirit of Capitalism, Luc Boltanski and F. Chiapello explain that what makes the capitalist system sustainable is that it is able to incorporate its criticism to seem acceptable when in reality the balance of power doesn't really change. For instance, African Americans were advocating for civil rights and job equality until the 60s. They won the battle. Yet, in 1968, the unemployment rate was 7% among African Americans and even 12% in southern states, while it was 3.4% nationally. Yet, African Americans have civil rights and like they have job equality, but they are not being employed as much as the other. So there is a legal equality, but nothing in reality. 34% of them are living in poverty and only 9% are graduating from college. Therefore, they are less educated, and that's how you end up with them representing only 9.9% of voters during the 1968 elections. Another thing is that they were basically being molested when trying to go vote. So yeah, they had the right to vote, but they were maintained in situations that like just didn't make voting enable. That's the thing that is explained in The New Spirit of Capitalism. And I'm gonna apply this to cinema, because you have to understand that every single structure of our society is capitalistic, and that capitalism nourishes itself from any kind of social injustice. Any kind of social hierarchy allows capitalism to survive, whether it's racism, sexism, homophobia, ableism, and the list goes on. You have a minority complaining about not being represented, so they give them what they want, a representation. It is a bad representation, but this is all they got, so they're not gonna criticize. And this is a point that Bell Hooks covers as well in Outlaw Culture. She explained that when she released her essay about Malcolm X, the Spike Lee version, she received a lot of virulent criticism from African American, telling her that compared to him, she was doing nothing for the black culture. Plus, she was like putting her black brother down, and that was the only representation that they had in cinema. So they were not going to complain for nothing. People want representation. We give them a bad representation, but still it's representation. So people are happy to have representation, and so they do not question the quality of the representation. So what can we conclude about all of that? Should we all give up on our hopes to have a solid and valid representation for every single minorities in cinema? Should I give up in life and on making essays? The answer to both of those questions is not at all. And that is not even the message around behind this video. Even if there is more and more representation in the American cinema industry, we should not take it for granted, and we should always question our biases as well as we do question Hollywood biases, especially in those difficult days, because it is not due to hazard if non-white people are losing ground in key roles in Hollywood. It is not due to an hazard if, like these years, only 37% of lead character were female. It is not due to an hazard if we do not cast disabled people and we prefer casting bodyable people to disguise as disabled people instead of casting disabled actors. It is due to a political climate, and this is why it's important to talk about it. Why is there less and less queer characters in movie production? According to GLAAD, 41% of LGBTQIA plus characters of 2024 to 2025 TV season won't be part of the next TV season, which is 2025 to 2026 TV season. Anyway, little promo time. If you want to learn a little bit more about this topic, about queer representation in media, learn. What do you think I am? Anyway, if you want to read about it, I have a Substack and I wrote an essay about it, and I'm planning on writing way more essays on Substack. So if essays are things that interest you, feel free to subscribe and follow me on Substack. Thank you. Anyway, everything has to come to an end, and even good thing, and that's why I think that's the end of this video. Yeah, I know that's sad. Everybody's sad, I know. Thank you for spending a little bit of your time with me. If you enjoyed it, feel free to subscribe, and leave me a little comment. Tell me your thoughts about this video, and if it was not enough, because I know that sometimes just one video of me is not enough. First of all, you can go watch the other one, and second of all, you can follow me on my socials. Those are my main, and here you have my art account. I'm gonna try to post more on my art account, but guys, I'm not really confident in my art. I'm looking at my art and I'm like, it is not that good, so I don't want to post, but I'm gonna try to post more there. Anyway, as for me, bye, and I see you in my next video.